right, let's put the spotlight on women entrepreneurship. Is our special on the show. Archana Khosla Burman, the founder of Vertices Partners, spent years as a corporate lawyer and then began her own practice. She works with a lot of startups. So let's understand her perspective. Thanks so much for joining in. So you decided to get entrepreneurial after working for years in the industry. What prompted that decision?
Sure. So let me start by saying, Avan, that my journey to turning into an entrepreneur is actually quite intertwined with the startup ecosystem of the country, and I'll tell you why. So while I've been an entrepreneur for about 8 years, but I've been a lawyer and have been advising entrepreneurs for over 2 decades now. And while I started my career as a litigator, but in a couple of years down the line, I realized that my true calling was in the PVC and general corporate and M&A space. So that's when I started working a lot, and that really became my key focus. I'm talking about back in 2004, 5, 6. That's the time I'm going back to. And if you remember back then, the world of entrepreneurship and venture capital was not so evolved, while private equity was booming in 2004, 5, which was when several large institutional investors, pension funds, large private equity funds were really investing in and buying stakes in mature companies and basically looking at making them more profitable. And that's the space I was working in. But having said that, India's startup journey, I would say, had begun at the time. And there were some effective business models which, when replicated in India, were working very well. And the startup culture really ignited from the period 7 to 12, which was really the e-commerce boom. And with the advent of internet and tech savvy entrepreneurs coming into the space, a lot of investment started happening in that space. So I personally started working in a lot of e-commerce deals at that time. Any e-commerce company which was in that space was someone I was advising. And then came your 10 to 15, which was really the initial growth period. All your, a lot of your government schemes and policies came out, Make in India, Skill India. You had benefits like tax benefits, simplified regulations, funding support. So all of this, as a lawyer, there was a lot of work happening in the startup ecosystem. So anybody who was advising entrepreneurs was at a space where there was a lot of work inflow. And then came the golden age of entrepreneurship, which is 15 to 20, right? And that's the time when India became the third largest startup ecosystem in the world after US and China. And you had more policies come up like Stand Up India, Mudra Yojana, Digital India. So having said that, that was really the right time for me to take the plunge because I was working in the space for almost 12 years. I was quite entrenched in the system, working with entrepreneurs over the years. Not only did the positive energy pass on to me, it was also strategically the right time as well. There was an overflow of investments and venture capital funding. So me, along with two of my other co-founders, started Vertices Partners in 2016 with that idea that we, as it is, are working in this space and there's a lot more work to come in. And we started as a very small 5-member law firm in a small space in Mumbai. And today we are an approximately 80-member law firm, having 12 partners and having offices in Mumbai, NCR, and Bangalore.
And I believe that the firm specializes in venture capital and mergers, acquisitions. Tell us a little bit more about the kind of problems that you've noticed that startups really faced and who have been some of your clients.
Sure. So as a lawyer, what happens is you come in as a founder's confidant right through the entire life cycle of an entrepreneur's journey. So right from the time you even ideate, you want to set up your venture, whether you want to set it up as an LLP, you want to set it up as a private limited company, partnership firm. So that's when a lawyer comes in, right? So right from setting up your venture to your contract management, to your ESOP or MSOP structuring, to your co-founder and other management agreements, to your social security regulations, corporate structuring, moving on to, if you're looking at funding, then you're looking at seed or angel investment, which could move on to venture capital investment, private equity investment, to any acquisitions as well, right? To any eventual exits if you're looking at. So that's where we as a law firm come in. The firm has very strong practice areas, not just in PE, VC. We do joint ventures, M&A, banking and finance, litigation, dispute resolution, and white-collar crimes as well. And thankfully, being in the venture capital and private equity space, we are quite sector agnostic, work across diverse sectors, right from D2C, financial services, fintech, TMT, pharmaceuticals, life sciences, healthcare, AI, infrastructure, edtech. There is so much, right? And to answer your question on the clients, I can name some of the startup clients we worked with right from the time they set up to today, they being in the Series C, D stage. We have Dehat, we have Sugar Cosmetics, M Caffeine, Open Secret, NoBroker.com, Josh Talks, Finova Capital, Indira IVF, Battery Smart, AgNext. There's so many I can think of. Avishkar Group, Fraternity, NMI, GoQuest, Flip Spaces, Physics Wala, Plix, Nutraceuticals. And we also have global corporate clients, which are the likes of Next, Shell, Teledyne, Elanco, Marmon Water. So we work across a very, very wide spectrum.
And what is the view on the startup ecosystem then in the country? What is the investment climate looking like according to you?
So the funding winter has definitely been there for some time, right? It has significantly impacted the Indian startup ecosystem. It has presented both challenges and opportunities, I would say. And while there was a funding peak in 2021, there was a slowdown in subsequent years. But I would say 2024 is showing signs of recovery. Hopefully, the worst might be behind us. 2024, the startups are showing resilience. If you look at the statistics for August alone, it was categorized as the second highest funding month of the year. So there is definitely a gradual shift in investor focus towards startups, and there is more focus on profitability. So any kind of venture where you're looking at sound unit economics is what investors are looking at. Obviously, owing to the fact that the geopolitical factors, the Ukraine conflict, those are the concerns. Having said that, I would say the investor sentiment is now positive, but it's not like the earlier days when even an idea was getting funded. There has to be sustainability, there has to be strong unit economics, and you have to look at really clear paths to profitability.
Are there any hurdles then that you face being in a very male-dominated field?
Yes, definitely. So you'll also agree, Avan, private equity and venture capital industry is primarily a very male-dominated space. So in every deal, you are dealing with investment bankers, you're dealing with founders, you're dealing with investors, majority of whom are men. And again, I'm talking way back when I was in this space and I started my journey. So you would more often than not end up being the only woman in the room negotiating with so many men. So of course that came with its own set of challenges. And but I think I always approached it with a different mindset. And I think once you start removing the whole aspect of being a woman or being a woman entrepreneur in your mind, and you exhibit yourself in a certain manner, things do start changing. Having said that, it's much more difficult for women because you have to work that little extra harder to change the mindset or to change the perception which people have. So that was one which I always dealt with. And I think we all are dealing with it on a continuous basis, even at this stage. The second hurdle I faced was when I became a mother, when my law firm was just 2 years old. So that came with its own set of challenges, both in terms of timeline, bandwidth constraints. I would say, not just clients, but I had to deal with preconceived notions of neighbors as well, who were judging when they saw me going to work when the child was young. So I think resilience is the key. You just have to keep showing up. You don't have to be bothered what people think of you. You just have to do what you know you do best. And I personally feel a lot for this, for women in general. And Avan, you're aware, I've joined a lot of these forums as well, chambers of commerce, which are supporting women. I have over the years made a conscious effort I've been a part of networks of women being more than 15,000 to 20,000 women, and I've interacted with them. So I think the challenges are very common, but I'm doing my bit to make a difference. We are running accelerator programs for women. We've collaborated with bodies like the US Consulate, several accelerators, venture capital funds, running programs for women to help them not just get trained, to help them get connected to the right set of people, both within the community, be it investors, be it like-minded founders, be it experts. So I think we all need to keep doing a lot for the ecosystem. Also, we are doing roundtables with investors, with government bodies, and other bodies from the startup ecosystem to not just understand the challenges, but to figure out the solutions. And we are in deliberations with the government because care economy is very, very important. And if we can attract more investment into care services and infrastructure, I think a new segment of the economy will open up for women.
And finally, Archana, any advice for young entrepreneurs and women in India?
Definitely, I always tell all my women entrepreneur clients, friends, mentees that few things bear in mind. Always try to actively work on nurturing your network. I think that's where we lack a lot. So definitely work towards that. Stop waiting for that near perfect situation before putting yourselves out there. I think it's important to just own your seat and be fearless about your views. Don't be low on self confidence. You will face lots of issues, and there will be questions, and there will be judgments. But I think you have to just keep showing up and keep ignoring those. You have to know your strengths. Just capitalize on your skill sets and create a sustainable work environment. Surrounding yourself with very motivated and positive and smart people is another very important advice I would like to give. Sometimes people may be smarter than you, but that's good for you. Don't try to do everything yourself. You need to build a rock solid team and a support system around you. And I think the last I always tell them is never, never stop learning and educating yourself.
Lovely chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining in. With that, we're timed out on this edition of Startup Central. Thanks for watching.